Bell from west of the Rockies at 1-800-618-8255. East of the Rockies at 1-800-825-5033. First-time callers may reach Art at area code 775-727-1222 or call the wild card line at 775-727-1295. To talk with Art on the toll-free international line, call your AT&T operator and have them dial 800-893-0903. This is Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell.
It is. Mondays can be pretty strange. Tuesdays, obviously, as well. And Wednesday mornings, early, definitely. My guest is Mel Waters of Mel's Hole fame. And now we've got a new hole. And this one's really something. And something about a sheep coming up in a moment. All right, just about to get back to Mel Waters, and he had brought up the subject of a sheep, which apparently they were considering lowering 1,500 feet into the hole. Now, we were having fun last week with Mel's Hole, talking about it a little bit. We knew he was going to be on. And somebody said, well, why not toss a cat down Mel's Hole and see what happens? Now, of course, I'm a cat lover, and so this is not cruelty, because nobody is seriously suggesting tossing a cat down Mel's Hole, but some very creative person with a sound blaster and some talent and a little manipulation created what it would sound like if a cat were to be tossed into Mel's Hole. It's meant, obviously, as pure comedy. This is not actually a cat being tossed into Mel's Hole, but here is the way he represented it would sound. It's the second one that gets me, not the first one. The first one is pretty good, as you hear the sort of the echo of the cat disappearing down the hole. It's the second little one. There he goes. That was what somebody thought it would sound like, Mel.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway, so you decided that you would lower a sheep 1,500 feet down as low as the ice had gone into the hole.
Well, we had decided that we were going to take the sheep and put them in a crate and lower them into the hole. We led the sheep to the hole, and it just started freaking out. I mean, we didn't make...
Like every other animal.
Yeah, but I mean, it was like totally
not happy.
It was not happy, and I, I have a lot of respect for animals, and it's amazing what animals really know and what they sense.
Well, you're right about that. And so, if it was terrified,
it was terrified. So the bass got the sheep away from the hole, and again, a lot of what I'm going to say now, I am thoroughly ashamed of.
That's all right. Just give us the raw truth.
He basically stunned the sheep by knocking it between the eyes. Got into the crate. Got the cable and line hooked up to it, so it was all securely attached. And
right.
Just about when we got to the hole, the sheep just started making horrible noises. So he stunned it, but he didn't kill the sheep, okay? He just knocked it out.
Yeah.
So it was live when it went in the box, and then it stirred when it got to the hole.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was just making the worst god-awful noises. We were getting it about ready to let it go into the hole.
Yeah. And even though it had been hit in the head?
It stirred by the time we got it crated up into the crate. There was enough room for it to lie down, and I guess if it wanted to, it could stand up. I don't know. Again, this is not pleasant to talk about, but we take the sheep, and it's screaming, and just the most piercing, horrible, ghastly noises coming out of this crate. Until we get it right over where we're going to let it into the hole, and then everything just stops, dead silent. There's not a sound coming out of that box.
Yeah.
There's movement coming out of the box. You could still tell.
But no sound.
There's no sound anymore.
Well, there's something about this hole in sound, isn't there?
I guess we will make that assumption. And so we started winching this sheep down into the hole, and you could feel from the line as we're lowering it, the thing is struggling, fighting. I don't know if it's screaming down there, but we're not hearing this thing screaming. And I think we got about halfway down into the hole, and it was about to say 700 feet, and then the any movement that might have been coming from the crate, we couldn't
feel it anymore.
No, we couldn't feel anything. So I don't know, at 700 feet or so, about half the line, what happened over there. When we got to at this point here, the original experiment with the ice, we were kind of nonchalant about it. We just kind of lowered it down there. Well, with this one here, we were all gathered around the top of the hole there, looking in, seeing what's going on.
Very apprehensive.
This is kind of a serious business here. And when we hit the bottom, we felt up there. We felt like a vibration on the collar at a point in time when it was down there, and it's kind of hard to describe.
Well, what do you mean when you hit the bottom?
When we hit the bottom of the rope, the cable line assembly that we had.
You mean when it was all the way played out?
Yeah, when we got there, we felt, and it vibrated, or it felt like a vibration, and sort of like a staticky electricity type kind of feeling. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That we could feel up there.
Yeah.
And so we got it down to 1,500 feet, and we left it there for about a half an hour. And then we decided to bring it back up.
Right, sure.
So we're hoisting this thing up here, cranking away, getting this thing up on there, and it's kind of a job. So we finally get up to the surface, and we got the box out of there, and the one thing we notice is there isn't any movement in the box. Okay,
no,
there's no box. We get the box there, and but the box from the outside looked pretty normal. It didn't look like some weird transformation had occurred or anything.
Right.
Oh, I wanted to describe to you how we're going to tell you about the ice that came up that didn't melt.
Right.
What it felt like. You get a lot of electronic equipment, and you get those do not eat packets.
Oh, yes.
The desiccant.
Yes.
You ever take the desiccant out of the packet?
No, never.
Oh. Well, if you take it out there and you feel the desiccant between your fingers, that's kind of what it felt like. That's the best thing I could describe it at. I had that sort of... You try it someday, and you'll...
I've always just thrown those away.
Oh, well, you don't eat them, obviously.
No.
Okay, so I just struck me there that I'm trying to describe this thing in the detail that I can, and so I just led back to the desiccant. But we open up the crate, and the sheep is dead. It looks like a sheep. Okay, it looks like a normal sheep over there, and
it's dead.
It's dead. There's no sign of life. You poke at it. There's nothing going on with this sheep here. He's dead. Well, I'm saying here, but that's a generic he. And I don't know from sheep. Okay, you show me a sheep, I can't tell what it is.
Gotcha. Me either.
Okay, but we take it out of the box, and the one of the Basque lays it on the table that we have over there, and he is going to dissect the sheep.
Oh.
Now, on the outside, the sheep looked just fine. That the hair, that the wool, whatever a sheep has, looks fine. Look like we said that the sheep looked like how he looked when we sent him into the hole.
Minus a bump on the head, yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, and he stirred from that. But he started cutting into the sheep, and it looked like the sheep had been cooked. It was the flesh was hot underneath. When he started cutting through the sheep here, it looked like the sheep had been cooked.
Oh my!
Now these Basque guys, they're pretty good at butchering a sheep there, and they know their way around a sheep, and so they pretty much can butcher and they know what to expect when you open up a sheep.
Right.
So we got the sheep on this table that we eat that, and This guy is cutting the sheep open here, and he gets it so he can look inside and see the internal organs like he's going to eviscerate the sheep.
Right.
Except they're not what we expected.
What do you mean?
It looks like there was gel in the cavity there, and something that looked like this huge tumor, and almost taking up the entire length of the body cavity.
Oh, Mel.
I mean, it's pretty hideous.
Oh, God.
I'm getting kind of sick. I get kind of sick thinking about this thing too. But I was getting kind of sick when I was there, so I wasn't as close to all of this as I would want to be if I was a scientific observer. But there's this huge tumor taking up most of where the internal organs would be, so forth, the heart, the lungs, whatever parts a sheep comes with. They weren't there.
And what are these Basque guys who are doing this saying at this point?
Well, some of them are muttering plenty of expletives over here, and and they're freaked out there. And I remember saying, "See, I told you didn't want to go into that hole."
That's right. And the two guys who volunteered in my first hour are probably rethinking it right now, too.
Well, if they want to collect on some life insurance, fine, go for it. But,
that's what one of them said, yeah.
Anyway, so we got this gel, and guy's good with a knife here, and he kind of is able to get the tumor out of this thing here.
Yeah?
And I say it's about as big as the sheep's cavity. I don't know, 2 feet long.
In other words, the tumor was almost taking up the entire inside of the... Oh, ugh.
Okay, so you got this tumor, and we could see that the tumor had some movement to it.
What?
Yes, it had movement to it, and I'm going to describe it like a heart beating.
Oh.
There's not a beating of a heart, just like a pulsing from this tumor.
A pulsing tumor. Oh, my God, Mel.
So we get to the point where we got this tumor out there, and, he's working on trying to cut it open. It's like really a tough thing to cut into, but he was finally able to get into it.
Yeah.
And, boy, I'm going to tell you here, he opens it up there, and inside this tumor is what it appeared to be a fetal seal. Like
a fetal what?
Seal, like a pinniped, a thing that lives in the ocean that balances balls on his nose.
Yes.
It's about 18 inches long. It's got the flippers on it, and it looks like a little seal.
Oh,
it looks just like your basically your little seal, except it had what, and I don't know, I don't want people to freak out, but it had what looked to me like human eyes. Like a human being. I mean, you know what like cat eyes look like?
Oh, yeah.
You know what dog eyes look like?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what seal eyes look like, but I know what human eyes look like.
Sure you do.
And this thing looks like it had human eyes. And the thing was alive, but it was connected to the tumor, like with this umbilical cord.
Holy mackerel, Mel.
And we could see the seal moving his eyes, and I'm calling it a seal, okay, but I have no idea what the heck this thing is, okay? I'm calling it a seal. But it's opening its eyes, it's closing it, the flippers are moving, it's still connected to its tumor there. And then I noticed that it seemed to be studying us. It seemed to be looking at us. That was the feeling I got. It seemed to be regarding us while we were looking at it. And so that's the feeling I got off of the seal. And then this thing separated from the tumor without our assistance. We thought, well, maybe we will cut this thing free.
Right there on the table.
It's right there, and it moved about a little on the table.
Yeah.
So we're all standing back at that point because this thing is loose.
I'll be way back.
And we're watching this seal, and again, that's the only way I could describe it because it looked like a seal to me.
Human eyes.
And then I felt, I just felt I was in the presence of something extraordinary, something beyond extraordinary, something like, I don't know. I'm not a religious man, but it felt in that category of having a religious thing there. This was just such a stunning thing to witness.
Well, something that far from our understanding would appear to be magic or religion or whatever you want to call it, I'm sure. Yeah, so what God's name happened to this thing?
Well, we left it there, and it began to, it just kind of looked at us there, and, one of the Basques suggested we kill it, and, just kind of club it, and unfortunately, and,
is that what they did?
No, basically cooler heads prevailed. The thing was moving around on a table, and it finally moved to the edge of the table.
Yeah.
It was kind of like struggling, but it got to the edge of the table.
Yeah.
And it looked like it was going to fall off.
Right.
So I go up to it at this point, because I'm just like out of my head with I don't know what I'm in the presence of. And it looked directly at me when I got up to it, and it seemed, it seemed to have a contact with me. And I got this compelling feeling to pick it up and place it on the ground. And I did that. I took this thing and I put it on the ground by a table.
Yeah.
And my hands were slimy from the seal, because it had like this goo that was not only in the cavity, but also inside the tumor. And I'm just calling it a tumor because I have no vocabulary for this.
Right.
And I just moved my hands past my face before I decided to wipe them off on the rag at the table there.
Right.
And it smelled like ozone.
Like
ozone smells like?
Ozone. Of course I do, yes.
That's what it smelled like because I thought it would be some like sort of weird organic-y smell.
Yeah.
Some sort of like disgusting. I just thought it would smell disgusting. It smelled like ozone.
Okay.
So this thing is lying on the ground, and we're all looking at this thing here, and it's like looking at each of us in turn.
In other words, intelligently.
Yes. Yes. We must have been there just absolutely transfixed by this, I'll call it a creature now, for like 2 hours.
What was it doing during those 2 hours? I mean,
studying each one of us.
It wasn't moving around that much?
Just its head. Because we had gathered, this cowardly, but a safe distance away from it, but not too safe, So we could easily see it, and they could easily see us. Because at this point here, even the bravest Basque were like, kind of freaked out.
I'd have been long gone, Mel.
Well, again, the Basque are great.
All right, well,
have no fear.
Hold it right there, Mel. Here's this thing on the ground now. Not moving around much, but carefully studying each and every one of them, who have by now retreated to a safe distance. That's where we'll pick up when we get back. I'm Art Bell.
In the Kingdom of Nye, from west of the Rockies at 1-800-618-8255. East of the Rockies, 1-800-825-5033. First-time callers may reach Art at 1-775-727-1222. And the wildcard line is open at 1-775-727-1295. To reach Art on the toll-free international line, call your AT&T operator and have them dial 800-893-0903. This is Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell from the Kingdom of Nye.
Well, I knew that Mel had found another hole, but I didn't know anything about all of this. This is incredible. Pretty freaky stuff. A number of questions from Mel. We'll try and get to the phones in this last half hour. Everybody stay right where you are. I'm Art Bell. This is Coast to Coast AM. Once again, Mel Waters. So here's this thing staring at each and every one of you, examining you, obviously intelligent in some way, and it looks like a seal, not like a sheep at all.
Nothing like a sheep.
Yeah, that came out of this godforsaken tumor that was in this thing. What happened?
Well, I got the seal, and he's on the ground. He waddles around a little bit in the direction of the hole, and then he just sort of is watching us some more, and we're sort of kind of at a safe distance, but we kind of encroach upon a little bit there, and I'm telling the Basque, hey, you're the big brave Basque here. You know, don't be afraid of this thing here. I'm just, just an ordinary old guy here. Just so you know, we did. We went up to it there, and it just looked at us here, and the look that it was giving us was the only way I can describe it. It was like the most compassionate look that I'd ever seen from any face.
Mm-hmm.
It just the way the eyes were looking and feeling this, and so some amount of time elapsed, and the little seal there starts to waddle again towards the hole, and I get this feeling that it wants to go up on the ledge, on the collar.
Right.
So I pick it up in my hands and I set it right there on there, and it moves around a little bit, and then at this point we're pretty comfortable with this thing. I am, and my comrades there are pretty comfortable with it. I mean, we're not like freaked out anymore like we were, and maybe it's just we're over the shock, or maybe we are in shock. But that look that was giving us, it didn't seem like an evil thing or a horrible thing. It seemed like,
I'm sure you were in some state of shock.
Yeah. So it's up there, and then it moves around. I don't know how. Maybe an hour. He's on it
is on the ledge.
The collar. It looks at us. It actually nodded at us. It made like a slow nod. And he turned around and went back into the hole. At this point, we were close to it, so we watched him go all the way down as far as we could see, and we didn't have high-powered lights or anything, so no sound, nothing like that. It
into the hole, and that was it.
Into the hole, and so we were all just moved, just drained. I'm drained telling you this, Art, because it is such an enormous thing to go through.
You realize it sounds like an unbelievable tale from Alien or something. I mean, it sounds...
Well, I don't know what it sounds like. All I can do now is to relay it,
yep.
and then just try to stand back from it.
All right, question for you, Mel. Does anybody have any photographs of this hole?
I went up there from the natives to the hole. I basically camped at that property.
Right.
I didn't come and go. No one came and go. We had what we had over there. And so we didn't bring photographs. Personally, I didn't want to, I thought to myself, look, this would be great. We get this all on film, on video, whatever.
Right.
But I did not want to encroach upon what they had, and if they came to me and said, look, Mel, why don't we go to town, go home, get our stuff, and try to video, fine, I would have said that, but I was not going to broach the subject with them. I mean, I did, I mean, to me, it was an enormous privilege to go where I'd gone at that point.
Are you likely to go back to the hole?
Yes.
You're going to?
I will. I will let you know that we at first we decided, we thought we would bury the sheep's carcass and the tumor.
Yeah.
We still had that, and we decided it was just best to take the whole thing and put everything back into the hole where it all came from.
Yeah.
So I just, we just let it be. We had a tarp on we just dumped the whole everything back into the hole where it came from. I didn't know what else to do. We thought about burying it, and it just didn't. I don't know. It just didn't seem right that I thought it would. And so that's what we did. I want to tell you something that is I believe related to this experience.
All right.
And that is, prior to going to Nevada, and this was in late August, I was diagnosed with a particularly lethal form of esophageal cancer.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
This was a like the kind that you have 6 months to live, but, they're just telling you that. That there's, nothing they can do about it, but it was very fast growing. And one of the reasons I came back here was to see the same doctor, because I started feeling a lot better. And my last examination with the doctor finds me cancer-free. I can't explain it.
Then you could document this, right? Because
he had, because they had whatever stuff diagnosing the cancer, and I went back to the doctor, and they could find no evidence of any cancer.
Is it your feeling that your proximity to the hole, or something about the hole, changed this?
I think it was the seal.
The seal.
I think it was the seal.
The seal.
I described this thing as this huge tumor, and that's what I had. But I described it as a tumor because that was the only vocabulary I had to describe it with.
Gotcha.
And I handled this.
Well, that's right, you did.
And I smelled the ozone from it, and it just, the look that it gave me, there was something going on. I can't say, look, I was communing with the seal and I was, had this conversation with this seal. No, I can't say that. But what I can say is that I had this feeling of such incredible compassion from this seal that ultimately went back into the hole. We just said, that was it.
And what was the conversation like after all this was over, Mel, between the Basques and the Native Americans and yourself?
Okay. Well, first of all, the Basques that I were with, they were young guys, okay, and I think before this, kind of your kind of shiftless sort of characters, partiers and all that, and they were like just profoundly moved. I mean, they were just had stuff going on in their mind after that they had been to another place, another time, anything. Their reality had been all changed. Now, I had the opportunity before I left Nevada to speak right before I left. I went back into civilization and spoke with a Basque elder.
Yes.
And this was the elderly fellow that I was referring to that told me some of the history of that he was in there, he remembered it from being a young man, and he described it to me and all of this stuff here. And we had because his thing was he himself would go there to that area for spiritual connection, that there was something very spiritual, very primal that was going on. He was a tough guy to talk to in some ways because he was more schooled in Basque than he was in English, but he got English out enough for me to understand. And so we talked actually at great length about the meaning of this. We did have some of the Native American people that I was worked with at that particular thing. This was kind of like a party sort of atmosphere out there. We were drinking what they like to drink, and and eating the good Basque food and all of that. And it was a good experience there to kind of decompress from all of this. And so, but he could not relate to me any experience like what we had, except he knew. He almost expected what it was that I was telling him. He just totally, firmly, completely believed what it was that I was telling him. There was no surprise to him at all in this thing here. I got this really old Basque guy there, and he's just taking all this in stride and nodding, and
Yeah.
So he knows there's something enormous of great enormity there, and my goal is to go back. I have agreed to work with the people I was working with the herbs and live amongst them and spend some time with the tribal members and some time with the Basque and spend it. And
are you going to do anything else with the hole itself?
With the one in Nevada?
Yes.
Well, I'm at this point. I don't know what we're going to do. I come back. I'm overjoyed that I'm cancer free. I felt so good after that experience that I knew something happened to my body. So I was glad to get back and have it confirmed that the doctor said yes. But I do plan to go back. I do plan to study it. I hope to be a better human being about this and not send innocent animals into it or what have you. That to me, I guess I still can't believe that I allowed that to happen, but I did,
Well, I appreciate your telling the story straight out this way. That's the only way to do it.
That's the only way to do it, and I got to tell you, I'm not selling a book.
Obviously.
I don't have a newsletter.
Right.
There are no Mel's Hole T-shirts, Mel's Hole.
Not that you produced anyway. I think.
Well, nothing that I have done. There are no Mel's Hole diaper pails or anything like that. I mean, to me,
Mel's Hole diaper pail. Who thought that one up?
Well, I mean, they will commercialize everything in the world, and I have no part of this. This has been just an extraordinary ride for me. Okay, it's been like nothing I could have ever imagined in anyone's life. To go where I've been, to be where I was, to go up, to go down, to be in the presence of such an amazing thing. And my only goal is to leave a permanent record of what happened.
Well, how closely are you willing to identify the location of this new hole? Well, just northern Nevada, is that?
I'm going to put it there. I don't want the tribal people up there to be overwhelmed by people, rushing out of Reno to get up there and
right, which they would,
and doing all of that. I am going to go back.
Do you think you could politely approach the Basque and, without identifying the specific area, get photographs?
If I feel comfortable, I will do that. I will also at this point, and I just have a little bit of what I have that happened in my Nevada experience left, but I know we're running out of time, is that anyone that can help me understand some of these things, if they can send an email to me, I'd appreciate it.
All right. You have an email address, right?
Yeah. It's Mel Waters.
Right.
At ATTBI. That's like ball igloo. BI. ATTBI.com.
That's Mel Waters at ATT. That's Tom.
Right.
B as in boy, I as in India. ATTBI.com, right?
Right, and
Mel Waters at ATTBI.com. What is it you want?
I cannot promise, like a whole, like to maintain a dialogue with people, but
well, what do you want?
There are other people out there that have had any type of understanding of this that can make some sense to me, that knows what's going on. I'm going to listen with fascination to your program on the Hollow Earth business.
Yes.
Because that's something I don't know about, but I sure like to know.
Well, there may be a relationship, obviously.
And so that I'm going to look at.
But I mean, what do you want in email? Do you want some support? Do you want?
Yes.
You're going to get media contacts.
What I really want is the people that have good, serious opinions about this. That understand some of this. That I described a lot of things that occurred. I don't understand any of them. I only described them. Going back to what I started with, talking about Ellensburg and bringing it up to today.
Yeah, I get it.
I'll put it out.
You want somebody who might understand all of this,
and that may have been studying these types of matters, that have had theories, whatever. That's good. But I'm going to be away from civilization for a good part of time, so it's going to be difficult, because I'm going to be going back probably mid-February, mid-March, somewhere in that timeline, and then I'm going to go up there for a period of time. I'll probably give you another contact when I get back to some sort of civilization, probably from Nevada, but I probably will get in touch with you again.
Okay. By all means, Mel, please try and see if they will allow you, I mean, without identifying the area, just to get some kind
You just want like a photo?
Some kind of photographic evidence,
okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to be afraid that people are going to be scouring that terror server now that I get that out there.
Well, they probably will.
I want to bring the final thing, because we were talking about the Basque elder that I was talking to. And it was a very profound experience for me to talk with him. And though he was not that much older than me, I felt that he was a great deal older than me.
Wiser.
Beyond that. So I know I could respect that. But we were sitting, there and talking well into the night, drinking that good Basque drink that they like to drink and all that good stuff.
Yes.
And he got tired and he was going to retire for the night. And he took my hand, to clasp it. And in my hand, he put something in my hand when he was leaving.
Yes.
And he closed my hand.
Yes.
And he just told me, put that away. So he said, put that away. So I just, put it in my pocket and sat around talking with his family. And someone said, aren't you going to look at what, the great-grandfather gave you?
Uh-huh.
And I said, oh, okay. And so I take it out of my pocket, and it's a 1943 Roosevelt dime. They told me he had found a similar packet of Roosevelt dimes.
Oh, my God.
Up there in Nevada, Chinese red envelope. And they said, and I said to him, you know how valuable this thing is? I said, you know what this would sell at a coin auction? They said, no, you have to have it. You need to have this.
Do you have it now?
I have it. It's in my hand as we speak.
How about a photograph of that, Mel?
If I can scan a 1943 dime,
yeah,
you will have it.
Or get somebody who's got a really good quality digital camera, go to the macro setting and take a very close photograph of it.
Close up. But
can you do that?
I will do everything I can to do that.
You know my email address, right?
Yes, we can do that. And but that's what he left me with. And he said to me that it was very, very, very important. Or they told me, because they finished the rest of it. Told me this is something I had to have. Now, I hadn't told them anything. In fact, outside the fellow in Ellensburg, no one else knew about the dimes and the red envelope. But he found one out there, and he had it for years. I think he had it since the 40s, to be honest with you, late 1943.
Mel, all I can tell you is we are out of time. This was one hell of a story.
I'm drenched.
I can tell. I can hear it in your voice. Mel, thank you for being here tonight. Thanks for catching us up on what was and what is. Oh, my gosh.
Okay.
Take care, my friend, and I really mean take care.
I will.
Good night.
Good night, Art.
Yikes. From the high desert, I have no further comment. I'm Art Bell. Ta-ta.
Continuing the story of Mel and Mel's Hole from just last Friday, December 20th, here is Art and Mel Waters on the best of Coast to Coast AM.
From the high desert in the great American Southwest, good evening. The moon out there is full, the night's still and cold, and it's going to be a very interesting program, and so I suggest you strap in, turn up the radio, and get ready. Coming up in a moment, a surprise visit from Mel Waters. That would be Mel of Mel's Hole fame. A lot of people said he was dead. Recently, I've had some communication from people who thought he was dead. Well, he's not dead. He's here tonight, and he's going to fill you in on, kind of what's happened since. Coming right up. Here from an undisclosed location, unless he wishes to disclose it, is Mel Waters. Mel, welcome to the program.
Well, hello there, Art Bell.
Welcome back to the program, is more like it.
Well, thank you. All I'll say is I'm in my nephew's apartment.
Okay, that'll do.
Okay.
All right, Mel, what we need is an update, if you have one, to Washington, an update, of course, on the whole here in my state, Nevada.
Right. Okay. First of all, I'm not dead.
That's a good thing, Mel.
And I did have a very, very, very close brush with death back around Memorial Day.
Maybe that's where people got it.
But I am doing well, and I am not yet ready to eat the big green wiener yet.
All right.
Anyway, yes, I do want to bring people up to date and let them know how things are going.
All right, good. Where to begin?
Well, I'm going to talk to you about kind of where we left off in Nevada.
All right.
I think that would be. Is it Nevada or Nevada?
I say Nevada. I don't.
I wonder about that sometimes.
Just try either one. We'll answer to it. Whatever.
Anyway, the one in your state here.
Yes.
I told you that we had lowered a bucket of ice into the hole there in your state, and that
you don't want to tell us any more about where the hole is.
I think that might end up coming out here, or I think people will be able to discern where it is in your state.
All right.
I think a lot of people have got a very good idea, and I'm going to tell you that the location where the hole is at has been under helicopter surveillance almost I don't mean constantly, like 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
But there have been flyovers of that area.
Frequently?
Like frequently.
Yeah.
But there's been no contact with the Basques that are there, that are encamped around there.
That's pretty odd, considering the military cordon that was thrown around the hole in Washington.
Well, yeah, that is, and I've yet to discern how they were able to mobilize so quickly on that. That's still a great mystery for me.
Nevertheless, you said you were reminding us a bucket of ice.
Yeah, but one thing that when I said they have had flyovers of the hole there in your state, I was told something very interesting, and that is that from certain approaches to where the area that they're in,
yeah,
you can see the encampment of people. You could see the Basque if you're standing there, say, on the hillside, but you cannot see the flange around the hole. I told you that with this hole, there was like a metal collar.
That's right.
A flange around. You cannot see that from a certain distance. You can see everything else, and the flange is huge. It's a very large metallic structure, that provides like a collar for this thing.
Mel, your opinion.
Yeah.
Does this hole go down somewhere near the center of the Earth? I mean, how far?
Well, of course, people know what my experience with it was, lowering all that fishing line into it, and I'm absolutely certain that I got 80,000 feet of line into it, which is, 15 miles or so of line. That's a crazy thing to do, but I did. I'm just one of those people that are determined to get to the bottom of things.
Only you never did get to the bottom.
No. When I was at that level, that was my first contact with you. When I reached that point there, that's when I said, I better reveal what I'm doing to the audience to find out what am I dealing with.
Yeah.
And so this whole thing started. Well, let me tell you about what had occurred. We lowered that bucket of ice. We pulled it up there. We had a bucket of ice up there at the surface. That bucket of ice at the surface had melted completely. We brought up the bucket of ice from a depth of, I believe it was 1,000 feet.
Uh-huh.
We lowered it down 1,000 feet. We brought it up. The ice was unmelted. So we stuck it on the campfire there in the metal bucket to see if we could melt it. Well, the thing caught fire, as I said.
The ice caught fire.
Ice caught fire, was burning. And it was a kind of a strange fire, but it generated heat. I don't know. I still to this, I might be getting ahead of myself, but it must have been some sort of chemical reaction. somehow the water was changed.
Yeah.
We actually touched the ice, and it felt like ice, but not cold. And when we came, that's when we took it, before we set it on fire.
Like ice, but not cold.
Right. I mean, it wasn't cold, and so what was going on here? So we lowered it, we put it in the bucket. Well, I told you that it caught fire, and they eventually one of these Basque fellows took the bucket of ice, set it in the back of his pickup truck, drove off, and took it home and stuck it inside of his wood stove.
Had the ice been put out?
No, it was just kind of,
Well, I mean, he had it in his vehicle.
He just had it in the back of his pickup truck.
You're trying to tell me it was burning while it was in there?
Yeah. Well, he wanted to take it home and put it in his wood stove and see if it would keep him warm.
Well, so he did that.
Yeah, well, the Basque are kind of crazy people. Are you in any way familiar with the Basque in general or specific, or just kind of heard of them?
Well, no, of course I've heard of them, but I mean, no.
The Basque are very well known in your state. In fact, the university up there of Nevada at Reno has a huge section on the Basque.
I bet, yeah. Well, so he took it home. It's not that weird. I mean, it was burning.
Yeah.
Ice burning is weird.
Yes, and he took this home and set it in his wood stove, and it kept him toasty warm throughout the winter.
Throughout the winter, and for you're telling me there's one piece of ice.
Well, what we did is in this metal bucket, we stuck in a bag of like 7-Eleven ice, the kind that you buy at the store,
sure.
ice cubes.
Yes,
that's what it was. That's what we put in there. Nothing else. Just the metal bucket lowered down into this hole. We get it and we stick it on a fire, and it's burning. Okay, so anyway, this goes on for quite some time, and he sets it in his wood stove, keeps them warm, and I imagine that today it'd still be burning or is burning. I have no.
The last you heard, it was still going?
Well, we're going to go to probably what Paul Harvey says the rest of the story here, because this is what I've been told.
All right.
He says, when you have a wood stove, and you're burning wood, you generally will put a kettle on top of that wood stove.
Yeah.
And, to have hot water for coffee and to humidify the air.
Sure, whatever.
It dries out the air terribly. Well, this Basque fellow, he just did just that there, and he noticed there that the air was, like, really, really dry. He was always thirsty, and his skin was, like, flaking. I mean, this was like, I don't know, he must have been living in humidity lower than what you face out there in the desert, and so... he's got this kettle up on top there, trying to humidify the air. And one night he notices that, I don't know, it might have been the angle of the light or just whatever it was, but the steam from the kettle looked like it was being absorbed into the stove. And we're not saying, like, through the vents or, through the door or whatever.
Wait a minute. The steam from the kettle, which would have been going up, would be coming back down and then absorbed by the stove.
Yeah,
right?
it was like dispersing and then coming around and just like, I guess the word to describe is lingering around, but it looked like it was being absorbed by the stove. That's I think that's the best picture I can.
That's weird.
That is strange.
Of course, this is already really weird. We've got ice that's burning eternally so far, and that's, I can picture it.
Okay, so I mean, I want to be able to, because this is what I've been told, but I have absolute belief in, the person that told me this, and that this goes on. Anyway, the stove is out there, and it's producing heat, and this guy is real happy, and even though he's, like, real thirsty and really dry, and then one day this guy comes home, he goes out and does his thing, and comes home, and he notices that the stove had crashed through the hearth and through the floorboards of his cabin.
What?
It just, like, went right down. It just broke. I mean, it was kind of a flimsy cabin, but it was able to support the weight of his wood stove and his...
So now a stove with this eternally burning ice is now through the floor.
It's in the ground. It's actually on like the dirt. Maybe it fell like about a foot into the ground at that point.
I wonder if this thing is going back from whence it came.
Well, that's what I want to know, and we're going to continue along with this here. But anyway, the stove is sitting down there. Now this guy, sometimes I wonder about these guys, but he's not too bright. So what he does is he patches up the stovepipe.
Yeah.
And so it connects to the chimney where, the flue, all that stuff there.
Yeah.
And he's kind of living in this cabin with this, stove.
You mean he's still using the stove?
Yeah.
He just extended the pipe?
Yes, that's exactly what he did. He just kind of lowered it down there. And as far as I could tell, though, it doesn't give off any gas or any smoke, no smoke or anything.
He made no attempts to bring it back up to fix the floor and do it right, huh?
No, he didn't. He continues to live with it, and basically about, I don't know, a week, maybe 2 weeks later, he comes home, and the entire cabin has collapsed.
What?
Around the whole thing.
The whole thing?
Everything has collapsed around it. In fact, all there is around the side of the cabin is piles of wood dust. Wood dust.
Wood dust.
Wood dust.
So in other words, his cabin disintegrated.
It basically looked like all of the moisture that was in the wood had been sucked out of it completely to the point that it could no longer exist as wood.
Wow. Now this is pretty interesting because so far it's pretty consistent. That's for sure. This thing reabsorbed its own moisture. It absorbed so much moisture this man had terrible skin trouble. Still, he kept it going, and now he absorbed all. I get it, all the moisture out of the wood.
He had wood furniture in there, his bed and a chair or whatever.
Yep. Wood
dust. You could see the different colors of wood dust. And at that point, he abandons the cabin and gets the heck out of there.
Understood.
He says, hey, enough is enough. So he moves in with one of his brothers.
Yes.
And they were over there, and about a month later, he goes back to the cabin to show it to his brothers, and they find that the stove had sunk to 5 feet into the ground.
This thing's on its way.
It's 5 feet into the ground, and it is still generating heat.
And still going.
And, at that point, all the dust had blown away, and, you got a few nails around there. And what you have is a rectangular hole, just a little bit bigger than a stove. So can you imagine a rectangular wood stove sinking into the ground, leaving its imprint? And there's a little bit of room around it, but not a lot. And he described that the hole that it made was also really, 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 really smooth all around it. You think of a hole in dirt.
Like it's burning its way through. Like it's
melted into some sort of glassy type.
Maybe it's doing the same thing, and it's taking away all the moisture in the soil below it as it goes.
This is the point where the Basque fellow contacts me.
Okay.
And they have a way of getting a hold of me. And I say something that I probably shouldn't say on the air, but anyway... we
something like holy smokes?
Well, yeah, that would be it. Holy smokes. Then I did something which I thought I would never do.
What?
And that is I contacted one of the people that were my contacts when I was in Australia.
Okay.
I had a number, and I described the situation to this guy here. And he pretty much said the same thing that I said, holy smoke. And he tells me it's really important that I tell him where the cabin was.
Of course.
And how to get to it.
Well, I mean, after all, Mel, this is, before it disappears from sight into a creation of a new hole, this is something that could be immediately researched.
Well, so I talked to the Basque, and all the land that I'm talking about is on public land. So the cabin, the guy's like a squatter out there, out in the out in the boondocks. He's got a shack that, if it burned down, he wouldn't care about it. He'd just put up another one, a couple of feet away.
Gotcha.
But he decides, okay, well, there's no way to really trace me, to here, so I'm not going to get any trouble. So we say, okay, I get back with this guy here. This is exactly where to find it, tell him how to get there. And so at that point, there's a team dispatched to the site of the former cabin.
A team?
A team of people show up there.
Way to go.
And now this guy, this Basque fellow there, he's got a nice vantage point. He knows all the land around there. He knows where he can sit out there and squat and look around. So he's got a pretty good view of where his cabin used to be. So he's out there, watching what's going on.
Yes.
Now, he said he wasn't sure if they were military guys or what kind of guys they were. I would imagine that some of them had to be scientists of some sort. And, they're out there for a while, and shortly after that, there's a bunch of heavy-duty construction equipment, cranes, and things that are brought out there.
Here we go.
Yeah. And then, and this is like, big stuff, super, super big stuff. But, he's up there and he's watching this, and the people down there at the cabin are really, like, struggling to get this stove out of the ground.
Yeah.
And at that point, I assumed that it sunk even deeper than it, than it was. And that last time he said it was about, like, 5 feet deep. So this thing was pretty deep out there. They keep on bringing it in heavier and heavier and heavier equipment, bigger cranes. They bring in multiple cranes. They're still, I guess, not able to get a purchase on this thing to lift it out.
Hey, Mel, I wonder if this is the way the holes got made in the first place.
I do not know what the mechanism here is.
Because so far, what you've described sounds like it's making a new hole.
Well, from that standpoint, it sure as heck does. And obviously this thing is sinking deeper and deeper into the ground, and they are, it's like a total, they're totally baffled with how to get this thing out here. I assume that when they're trying to bring it up there, that they're breaking off pieces of the stove because, it's made out of cast iron or whatever, and must be busting up there. That the thing is really heavy. Well, eventually what they do is they drop some chains into the ground, and then they pour some water in there into the ground.
Yeah.
and I don't know if this is what happened, but this is what I assumed happened. Is somehow the water and the chains and the metal all congealed together, kind of like held fast like glue to the structure and everything that was in the hole.
Yeah.
Well, eventually they were able to get this thing out of the ground and hoist it up, and they were using more than one crane at this point. Now, I don't know a lot about cranes, but usually they could pick up a lot of stuff. They had several cranes working on getting this thing out, so it must have weighed some huge amount.
God,
talking like
fascinating. Well, okay, so the weight alone would have broken it through the floor. The weight certainly wouldn't have dug the hole, though. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, and so they finally get this thing out of the ground using multiple cranes, the biggest ones they can get. This guy said these things were like monster cranes. They get it up, and they load it onto the biggest truck this guy had ever seen in his life. I mean, this was bigger than big, and they haul that thing away. It is like gone, it's over there, and so they just took the stove away. I don't know if he got a good look to see what the stove looked like, but they loaded whatever was in there, detached the chains from the hooks and stuff, and trucked this thing off.
All of this, in essence, just to get this burning ice, really.
That's what they got. But this guy here, as soon as I talked to him, he knew something was going down, and something had gotten, well, my impression was it had gotten, like, out of control.
And all of this just from something you lowered into the hole here in Nevada.
That is correct.
All right. Hold it right where you are, Mel. We're going to break here. We'll be right back. Current circumstances of the world considered, you should listen to the words of this song, because it's dead right. From the high desert, I'm with Mel Waters, and I'm Art Bell.
In Los Angeles, broadcasting with 50,000 watts of power on a clear channel frequency of 640 kilocycles.
AFI, AM 640, more stimulating talk radio.
Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell from the Kingdom of Nye.
It is, and I've got Mel Waters here. We're getting the continuing saga, or at least closure to this point of the Mel's Hole stories. That's plural. We'll get back to Mel in a moment. Once again, Mel Waters. Mel, Marilyn in Tulsa, Oklahoma asks, was there any sign of radioactivity? An obvious question.
I don't think these guys are capable of determining if that. None of the people have been around the hole in your state or the hole in Washington or this other site where the stove had gone into the ground, had experienced any sickness or anything that I guess would, as
be indicative of radio.
Anything that made them like truly sick.
Have you been back to our Nevada hole?
No, I have not, and the reason why is that I feel at this point I am. People can follow me around, and I don't want to lead anyone there at this point.
Have you detected people following you?
Well, I'll tell you, some of the people that I was trying to find have found me. I mean, and I have not left a trail of breadcrumbs out there. But so
you're not an easy guy to find.
I'm not an easy guy to find. In fact, that is also my message to Charlotte, and that is that I'm not around because people badger me all the time, even though I don't have a nickel in my pocket.
Actually, I would be aware of those you refer to. Let's not talk any more about it.
Okay.
Listen. The hole in Nevada,
right.
Eventually, Mel, we've got to give scientists or somebody access to one of these things.
I have a feeling...
Before the bulldozers come in with the suits and the military uniforms.
This has been my discussion with the Basque over there, is that at this point here, it's time to basically come clean on all of this stuff here. Let someone from a university out there, they don't want, I mean, they're just there, I can't see them profiting by it or anything. It's on public land. I mean, it doesn't belong to them.
A lot of people, of course, probably haven't heard this whole story, and I'll tell you now, Mel, we're going to take this segment, and we're going to repeat Mel's Hole 2 on Christmas. And so we're going to take the segment we're in right now, play it back then. So Merry Christmas.
I'm going to tell you something, Art, and that is, I sure got a lot of heat about the sheep and that...
Yeah, you want to briefly tell that again very quickly?
Well...
It is a central core.
This is good. Maybe I can lead into some more of this because there's been some more contact with that. Okay, what we did is some of the Basque were really like crazy, and some of them wanted to be actually lowered into the hole, and that's after we brought that burning ice up to the ground.
Yeah.
And I said that, hey, you don't want to do this. You don't want to send a human being down there. So they decided to lower sheep.
Yeah.
And they winched the sheep. Well, I don't want to get into the grisly details, but the sheep goes into the hole.
Right.
Goes down 1,000 feet. Bring the sheep up. Sheep is dead. They cut into the sheep. They find this huge tumor-looking sort of thing inside of it. These guys are used to eviscerating sheep, and they know this doesn't belong in there. They cut it open, and there's this thing that it's alive inside. It looks like a baby seal.
Yeah.
Like you see at the aquarium, a pinniped, a baby seal. That's what it looks like. But the eyes are so odd. We're all described as the same thing. It looked like it had eyes of a human being. You look at a seal, picture of a seal, and it's got these black eyes.
Right.
This thing had like human-looking eyes.
Oh, man.
Okay, and we had experiences with it. I won't go into the whole thing. But what has happened here is that I have been told that the Basque have seen the same creature again and again, and they've had many experiences with I'm going to call it the seal creature. Now, you had a guy on your show, I'm told is red elk or red something.
Red elk, yes.
And he talked about these things. They're called rock flyers. And that's what he described them at. But he described these seals. He's like a Native Indian, kind of a Native American sort of guy.
Yes.
And he described these things as being rock flyers. Well,
that's an interesting name for them, rock flyers.
And he said these creatures that live down in the earth, but what I'm getting is the sense that they not only live in the earth, but they inhabit like different earths, and they are able to move between them.
It's also possible, Mel, it's crossed my mind, that very, very deep within the earth, there might even be a different set of laws of physics that might begin to a reality that you would live with, and maybe that's why you're getting such weird things up out of these holes.
Well, if I'm pulling up ice that keeps burning and it's not cold, and I mean something
sounds like a different kind of physics
going on here. If we've got this metal color that you cannot see from a certain distance, it no longer registers on the mind or in the eye or in the retina. That's strange. I'll tell you something. Remember, I told you I was given a replacement to the 1943 Roosevelt dime.
Yes, I recall.
After I was told about this thing here, and I tried to take pictures of it, believe me. Actually, I can't do any of that stuff. My nephew does. But this is what I discovered after I told that they couldn't see the flange from a certain distance. If I stand 15 feet away from the dime, I can no longer see it. I can see the holder. I've got it in a plastic, like lucite holder. I can see the holder, and I can see straight through it. Then I walk towards it, and all of a sudden, the dime inside the holder materializes. That's what it's like. So I assume that if it wasn't able to photograph or not able to scan it, and believe me, my nephew, he did everything he could to produce an image of this dime.
Right.
He could not do it. I'm holding it right in my hand as we speak. I still have it.
But you can't take a photograph of it.
I can't even, when it's 15 feet away.
What about the hole in Nevada? What about the hole in Washington?
Well, now, I've not been to the site of the hole, and I could assure you at this point that the hole in Washington it's probably been re-landscaped over there. So
but the hole in Nevada
is still there as it was when I was there. It's out there in plain view.
We need some photographs. We really need some photographs.
Well, I am going to communicate with the Basque out there and say, look, why don't we just have people come out there, find out where it is. From my standpoint, this stuff sounds dangerous. And I was telling you about how they hauled away this wood stove that had a bucket of ice in it and how heavy it became.
Right.
Are you familiar with any of the works by Kurt Vonnegut?
Of course.
Okay, he wrote a book called Cat's Cradle, and in that book, Cat's Cradle, there was a substance in there, fictional substance, called Ice-9. And Ice-9 was developed for the military, fictional, so that the people, the biggest scourge to the military is mud. So they developed this substance that could pour in the mud, and it would solidify the mud. And the problem with it, though, is that it would keep on solidifying all of the water out there as far as it could reach, and eventually it would destroy the planet if it continued to solidify. It absorbs all of the water. Well, scientists have actually speculated.
Is it something biological? I mean, I can't imagine.
I don't know.
Because it's hard to imagine what else could continue to proliferate unless it was some sort of biological agent. I know they have biological agents that clean up oil spills.
Yeah.
They created creatures that eat oil.
I haven't thought of that. I never thought of this as a living thing. I always thought of it as a physical, chemical phenomenon.
Well, living things would be the one category that could continue to proliferate.
Anyway, this Ice-9 in fiction does that. It can literally attach itself to all the water and render it impossible to deal with. I mean, it would be no longer water. You can imagine a world without water.
Yeah, of course.
Well, scientists have speculated. You can go on the Internet and search for, like, Ice-9.
Yes.
And there are scientists that actually believe that something like Ice-9 can exist. They actually believe that it is possible to accomplish something like the fictional Ice-9.
Well, that's why I kept saying, what about a different set of laws of physics inside the Earth? Obviously, something about the deep Earth, Mel, is very different than what we have here.
It's the whole new set of laws down there that go on. But this ice has been, this burning ice has been a great, huge source of concern for all the people that I talk to, and then I'm not a military, whatever they worded down there, that went to the.
So you have no idea who has it now?
No, they took it away, and that was the report that I got. And excuse me. Anyway, I wanted to get back to the actual hole over there in
yes.
In your state, and I told you about the helicopters that routinely fly over there, and apparently no one has been molested over there that is encamped around the hole. But the Basque that are there have told me that they receive visits from the seal-like creature.
Now recalling for everybody, the creature went back down the hole.
I actually took this and put him on the flange.
Right.
And he just dived in through the hole.
Like a seal into the water.
Exactly. Yeah, precisely like that. And what I've been told is that the Basque have found a way of communicating with the seal, because it comes up regularly now. It's like a regular visitor. And what they did, and I don't know how they decided to do this, but the seal speaks to them through one of their boom boxes. So here you got the seal that's sitting there on the flange.
Mel, do you realize how crazy
look.
this sounds?
I was crazy sounding from the first day.
Yeah, well, you have a point, Mel. But I mean, the seal, or whatever in God's name this is,
can communicate to them
through a boombox.
Through the radio on the boombox. That is, I don't know how it does it. I don't have any idea of how radio works. Okay.
Well,
I mean, you're the radio guy.
It receives radio frequencies.
That's
so
right.
The implication would be this creature is capable of radiating some sort of modulated radio frequency, and that's how it would happen.
I mean, I always heard these tales of like people hearing like radio in their tooth filling.
Oh no, it's true.
And wire fences really out on the range.
It's all true.
And so I don't know, but anyway, they have been communicating with them, and one of them was actually smart enough to press the record button on the boombox.
Good move.
Yeah. He did, but this is what happened when he played it back.
Yes.
It sounded like I've listened to the shortwave radio before.
Yes.
But it sounded like that intermodulation that you get between it's a series of chirps and bloops and bleeps and things like that.
Oh, yes.
That's what was recorded.
Oh, isn't that
bloops and bleeps and stuff. That's all that was on a tape. I used to like those bloops and bleeps because they used to help me sleep. I would turn it in between like a shortwave channel.
Do you have that recording?
I don't have it handy, but
you have it.
But it sounds exactly like that. The bloops and bleeps you get between some of the shortwave radio stations.
Wow.
Exactly. I have no idea, but they were hearing this, speaking to them in the language they understood, and so they talk about it. And again, I wasn't there, okay, but I don't think these guys, the Basque, are pulling my leg. They're not that kind of guy. They might be crazy enough to want to go into a hole.
Well, crazy as it may sound, it's not really crazy based on your own first-hand experience with the holes, now, is it?
No, it isn't.
If you take one context as a reality, then you can. It seems to me it shouldn't be that hard for you to accept their word on what's happened here.
Right. And so, in that sense, but I'm also describing this to many, probably millions of people, I assume.
Probably, yes.
And what I was told is that that these creatures inhabit the Earth, and they inhabit the other spaces, linked and not linked together, and they're communicating through the radio to them is what's occurring, and they do receive visitations from the seal creature from time to time.
Well, I already like these little guys. If they use radio, they're my...
Are they your kind of people there?
Gotcha.
Okay, now the Basque were warned about the ice that we sent down.
What kind of warning?
They said from the seal creatures that the ice can and would destroy the world in a very little amount of time. This stuff is too dangerous to fool around with. You don't have any way...
It's not supposed to be up here.
...of understanding how this works, even though it is so tempting that all of a sudden in a bucket of ice, I've got what seems to be an unimaginable source of power, an inexhaustible source of power, apparently. But I can't imagine if it's being inexhaustible if it's getting heavier and it's absorbing water. I mean, that to me doesn't sound like, so I think that stuff that was down there really is truly dangerous if not contained properly, is my feeling on that there. And then that's the warnings that they were giving. They said that the world would be destroyed by the improper use of the ice. But they anticipate that greedy and undisciplined use of the ice will probably occur in this world.
Greedy and undisciplined?
Disciplined use of the ice.
It's an interesting phrase.
Yeah. In fact, that's what was quoted to me, that term, greedy and undisciplined.
Well, you know, the world is looking, for new power sources. Anything that burns, Mel, and changes its own weight in that manner has a great deal of power.
This kind of reminds me of something. We're a fossil fuel-based economy, right? And we've been using oil for the last 150 years, crude oil, petroleum.
Long time.
Before that, the oil that we used was whale oil. And some of the most famous whalers in the world were the Basque.
That's true.
Okay. Now, I told you some time ago that there was a whale bone, and it's stuck in a tree in Ellensburg.
I remember that.
And I've been told by the Basque that they left that there, that they were Basque in the area of the Washington Hole, and they left that whale bone there kind of as a marker. That's all I want to say about that, but that's what I've been told.
Do you think that somehow those beneath ground understood something about what we needed? Or what they thought we needed?
Well, I'll tell you this much, because there were other things that were said that, and this might explain some things to you, but, we talked about the greedy and undisciplined use of the ice, and they said that these seal creatures, they can travel between these worlds, and that there are other people in the other worlds that have designs on this world because this world is in pretty good shape. There are some people out there in other worlds that are similar to ours, but their world is so horrible.
Well, our world is at least above ground.
Yeah, but their world is so horrible that if we had suffered a nuclear holocaust on this world, they would be happy to inhabit it. There are people there, and what they were told is there are other worlds similar to ours that have designs on this world, and that they monitor what happens on this world. And they
listen to me now. We're almost out of time, Mel. Anything critical to get out?
Just that they are looking at our conditions, and they are saying, hey, the world that is the Earth that we know is on a collision course to disaster, and a lot of them think this is good, that then when we're gone, they can come here, and they think they're smart enough to use the ice that's here. That's the word I'm getting, okay? I'm not a prophet. I'm not anything. I'm just
Was
reporting.
The implication in that the ice was rare even to them?
The ice is rare, but when it's discovered, it's almost always improperly used. That no one has had the smartness. Now, these seal creatures...
Implication being there's been other pieces of this above ground.
In other similar situations there that have been used, and maybe it's been that some of this has surfaced in one of these holes, and you were saying maybe that's how these holes are formed?
Yeah.
Any number of those things.
All right, listen to me, my friend. We've got to go.
That's fine.
I want you to tell me, swear to me that you'll get hold of some people at the University of Washington.
I will.
Or wherever, and proceed with this, will you?
Talk to the Basque. I think they're thinking along my way. They have no real vested interest.
All right, I'm going to look for that to happen, Mel. You take care, my friend.
Thank you very much, Art Bell.
Good night, Mel Waters.
Bye.
KFI.
AM 640.